Right, growing up, yeah, I've always been told that I am crude because I always speak about sex and I'm very sexual. Everything is all about sex. It always relates to sex. Like, and I try to explain to people how everything in life is created by sex. Every man and woman want to fuck. Every fly mates, every cow mates, everything is about sex. And the reason why it's not spoken about is because it's connected to feelings and people aren't in touch with their feelings and they aren't able to express themselves. And so it makes them have to get in touch with what they feel and they're not used to doing that, and so they avoid the topic of sex. But it's to do with everything, and if people learn to be in tune to sexual energy, they would be so happy and they wouldn't give a fuck about anything because it goes back to the basics of what are we craving, which is to mate. Actually, it's even before food, because without mating, then you wouldn't need food. So mating is first and food second.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the field that I'm in, and it's true that it is the number one instinct is our sexual instinct. And people will most often choose sex over food, even over sleep sometimes, right? Of course, oxygen comes first, but maybe even over water. We might want sex before we want to drink water or eat food. And the key difference with what you said and what a lot of people think of is sexual energy versus sex or fucking, right? There's sexual energy and then there's sex. And one is kind of primal animal, right? It's just like the act of the friction and the feeling and the orgasm, the release, or the sexual energy, the desire to have sex. And that is what you can work with, right? You can work with your desire to have sex. The sexuality itself can be limiting if that's all that it is. If it's just to get off, then it's very limiting, right?
Yeah, so like orgasming, like just by yourself, that's just a feeling. Like I want to eat something, and you go to the fridge. I want to have a wank, and then you come, and that's it. Whereas the sexual energy is that build up of so many senses in our body, so many endorphins are released. It's like it's two different things. Anyone can just have a wank, but the sexual energy and the build up with somebody, even before you're even touching, right? Just in that room, like two animals wanting to mate, it charges your body up. It does so much amazing stuff. It's almost like I'm blocking a tunnel that's like, imagine you got a pipe under the sink, it's full of food. Sexual energy was like boom, shoot everything out in that pipe. Whereas I could just having a wank or whatever, just like removing the first part of the blockage. It's just like there's always going to be another time. But that energy thing, it is, and that energy can last for hours and hours and hours. Like you could just be two male and females in a room, just they're naked, thinking about wanting to do it, and it will only get more intense and more intense, and that could be for hours. Where if you just have a wank, it's over within, if you're lucky, like 5 minutes. It's two different things, and you're right, it's not related, and people are missing out on sexual energy, that excitement. These days, it's all just like fucking, and that's it. There's no real energy
Yeah,
anymore.
when you have to work for it, it makes it better, right? When there's the build up and the tension. But something else, so dopamine, the neurotransmitter, it's the feel good hormone. It's bliss and happiness and all this it creates in your body. And we seek things that release dopamine, right? That's all of our addictions. Anything we're addicted to, the reason why we have that addiction is because our brain is actually addicted to the dopamine that's released when we have that thing, whether it's video games, whether it's sex, whether it's shopping, whatever that is. And there's more dopamine released in the anticipation of pleasure than there is in the actual having of the pleasure. So, think of that and think of what we think we want when we want to something to make us feel better. We think we want the sex, we think we want the food, but looking at the cookie, say, looking at it, drooling over it, fantasizing about eating it actually gives us more pleasure than putting it in our mouth. Maybe the first bite, and after that, the positive benefits in terms of how it makes us feel kind of start to decline really rapidly.
Yeah, it's like that goes down to the process in life. It's the journey, not the destination. If you just get that food and get that sex, then it's over the minute you come, the minute you eat the food. That's gone. Whereas the build up before, thinking about it, your brain doesn't know what's real or not real. It's just focusing on that feeling of want. And that feeling of want can last for as long as it takes before it gets it. Um, and if you think about it's about animals and how they used to, like a lion, for example, it will walk for days and days and days to find a mate. He's so aroused on that 4 or 5 day journey that he is ready to go in as soon as he meets her. Whereas these days, right, guys are using like porn to get them hard. They're just and they're not even really hard. They're not even really aroused. They're not proper erect. They're just like they're just not proper. And no wonder sex is so shit for girls, because how can you have proper good sex if you're not really aroused? And that's because he wants the sex. So he's in the room. All he cares about is sex. He doesn't want to kiss or cuddle because that's all like emotions and feeling. He just wants to fuck. And then he comes in a second. It's over. There's no build up. There's no 4 days of waiting for the mate. And that is the best part. They're looking forward to going out for a take Chinese meal with your family. When you have it, you're like, oh, fucking, I've eaten too much. Oh, fuck's sake. But all day, you're like, I can't wait for the prawn crackers. Can't wait for the duck. Can't wait for the chicken. It's all about the process. And it's the same for a business. You create a business and then you get your business running. It's like, now what? It's all about the build up, the drive, that working towards that is the most exciting bit. And these days, like Amazon Prime, we want it right now. And there's no waiting for that thing to come through the door. That used to be so exciting, like, oh, maybe my parcel's going to come today. Now it's Amazon, where the fuck is my parcel? You said 2 hours. Where the fuck is it? Anger, as opposed to excitement for the thing.
Right, right. I think, and that it really is lost in the process. Like, we think that we want things easy. We think we want it right away. We're geared toward, I think it's a survival thing. You know, we're geared towards what's the quickest, easiest way I can get this thing with the least expenditure of energy or calories possible. It's survival. It's built in us. But then when you think about what really has value is something you work for. It takes, 4 years to get through a college. It takes a long time to get a degree for something. And that value that you put into it and the certificate or the degree that you get is going to mean so much more. You're like, damn, I have to go out in the world and do something with this because I worked so hard for it. As opposed to if you take a quick online class and get a degree, you might be like, okay, there's another degree. It was easy, so it must not mean that much. It must not count for that much. And same thing with, like, say, online dating sites. You meet an amazing person. You have an incredible night. The night ends in sex. You're like, okay, that's what that was. Now what? What's next? As opposed to, say, the old way of dating, the courtship, the let me bring you flowers. Let's go out to dinner. Let's take a walk. Let me find out what you're about. Let me get to know you and let you feel comfortable with me before we'll even expect sex to happen. But I think sex has become such a quick expectation that people are losing what it means to be vulnerable with each other. And vulnerability and opening your heart makes the sexual experience so much better. And it's something that women are naturally more geared towards. Like women, this is all, of course, in generally speaking, women need more heart openness, more heart connection, more feeling of safety and emotional bonding in order to be aroused sexually. And generally speaking, men need sexual arousal or satisfaction in order to feel like they want to open their heart, right? And this is different for everybody, but it's just kind of the way that we're wired. And it's good to learn to meet in the middle, especially in relationships.
But what's interesting is I've realised that the process of being sexually excited creates a lot of pre-cum. It's almost like, in terms of the science, you need to create enough pre-cum to lubricate to then flush the sperm, right, when you ejaculate. These days, no one is building up pre-cum because they just jump straight in. And I have high energy, and I know from experience that if I'm just in my bedroom having a wank, not much pre-cum. But if I'm with a girl, there's so much pre-cum, there's so much, and that's from the excitement of all beforehand. There's so much, and that's what people aren't doing. They're not building up that first part, and it's crazy because the orgasm is even stronger because you've got so much fluid there that you're so like aroused that you need a bigger orgasm to push out the fluids, that the orgasm's more stronger. And it's like, if no one understands this, like, it's just no one's fault. It's just become lost. Like, the meaning in almost anything has become lost because it's all over exaggerated and just taken out of proportion.
Yeah. Yeah, the pre-cum is also an amazing way for it to feel better for the woman right away. You know, if a woman's not ready, sex isn't going to feel great for her. If she's aroused, if she feels like her heart is open and connected, then her vagina is going to open up, literally. Just by feeling understood by somebody, you start to get wet sometimes. If there's that spark in the eye, that feeling of openness in the heart, it's like your nipples start to get erect and you start to get wet. And it's like, wow, all of a sudden my body is ready for sex, right? And it might take hours, days, weeks, even months of knowing somebody before you start to, as a woman, because women generally take a little bit longer to warm up sexually. Of course, all this is just generally speaking, but once that happens, then the body just becomes this open desire portal wanting to receive whatever the man has to give. But unfortunately, people aren't even letting themselves get to that point. So even relationships are being started where people are having sex all the time, and that level of connection hasn't even been met yet. Where the woman's saying, okay, well, he wants it, well, I should give it to him. Well, I don't want to be seen as a prude. I don't want to withhold from him. I want him to keep coming back and keep liking me. So therefore, I have to give this to him. But the sex isn't as good for either of them because neither of them are really, really tuned into each other.
Yeah, if they feel like she feels like she has to give him sex in order for him to want for her to want him or him to want her, then you're not spiritually compatible, which means you're not supposed to even be with each other. Because if you were spiritually compatible, you'd be so in tune and your energies would charge each other all day, every day, that it would just be the most amazing, passionate sex. It wouldn't just be a fuck. And that's the thing these days. Everyone is built on the sex, the image, the looks of, like, Tinder profiles and stuff, that you're like, you wanted to fuck them before you even met them. And if there's no connection, it's like, well, I'll just fuck them anyway. And so you're always on that pattern of there's always somebody else, and you're not actually taking time to build anything. It's just fuck, 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 which is why there's so many people just like call fuck boys, or just people you're dating all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the culture that everyone's in these days, that no one's taking time to build anything because it's just too much effort, and they're not. Yeah, frustration builds up, and then you get angry, and then it's a vicious circle. And you start going to the gym more and getting muscles because it's a vicious circle. It really is.
Yeah, we've gotten really lazy as a culture, as just the human race in general has gotten really lazy. Having things be so easy from food, fast food to quick and easy sex to the comforts, comforts of daily life. We have robots vacuuming our floor for us. It's like everything is so easy. And I think we're starting to really see at what point things getting easier actually takes away from quality of life instead of adds to it, right? Like if you eat fast food and you're eating fast food all the time, and soon you just start to crave fast food. You're not even really that hungry. Your body isn't even asking for nutrients. You just start to crave the crunch and the salty and the fat and all that stuff, and you just end up gaining weight, and then your quality of life is shit because it's too easy to get this pleasure. And then what happens is something that used to be a 10 on the pleasure scale, like really, really pleasurable, orgasmic hamburger, this like amazing thing, all of a sudden becomes a 9, becomes a 7, becomes a 6, and you're like struggling to get back to that high hit of pleasure that you got the first time you ate it. So the same is true for sex or for masturbation. When you were a teen or however old you were and you first learned how to masturbate, it was
I
the
was
most
10,
amazing thing in the world. You're 10, okay, I
and
was
it
like
was
5.
amazing.
Yeah. It's the most amazing thing in the world. And you're like, oh my God, how did I not know about this before? I want to do this all the time. And then over the years, especially once you get into your 20s, 30s, and I'm sure, older, you get more used to it, it becomes less and less satisfying because we expect that same excitement that we had when it was new to us to still be there. And so we start to look for, yeah, pornography and even, more extreme porn, violent porn, things that are kind of really unhealthy for our psychology to get that same level of arousal, even though this arousal is like an adrenaline fear arousal that's turning us on sexually, right? If it's violent pornography. And instead of letting the arousal come from maturing our sexual energy, maturing our relationship sexuality, and finding more pleasure in the subtle things, right? Finding more pleasure in our breath, in the touch of our partner's skin against ours. And even if we're just having a wank, as you say, or self-pleasuring, finding more pleasure in just lightly touching other parts of our body before we go for our genitals to remind ourselves that our whole body is a sex organ. There's so much more that we could be getting that we just skip over. It's just sad.
Yeah, so like obviously I believe that if you are spiritually in tune with somebody, then the sex will be more amazing as if they were just a random stranger. However, because we are all sexual beings, if you have a connection with somebody, you don't have to marry them. You can have great, amazing, passionate sensual sex with people who you just meet once, as long as you know kind of the laws of it, which is the build up, the touching, the kissing, and not just fucking. You can have amazing sex. You don't necessarily have to be with like your soulmate or your twin flame. I know from experience that every girl I've eaten out, I've made them come. Okay, that's because I understand it's not about me, it's about you. It's about working with your senses. I am recognizing their body language, I'm listening to their breath, I'm learning from their body, I'm seeing their movements. You build up. You can't just go in. You got to build up slowly, and you wait for their breath, and then you get quicker. It's about them. That is a long process, sometimes like 15 minutes. Guys just want to fucking go. They ain't got 15 minutes. That's before they've even got something themselves. Things
Sometimes
take time.
hours.
Huh?
Sometimes hours.
Yeah,
It,
things take time.
yeah.
And it's not just the in and out, it's the kissing, it's the cuddling, it's the holding hands, it's the back tickles, it's the head massaging, it's the kiss in the neck, it's the everything. It's everything but the fucking. That is what makes sex sex. It's not just the fuck. Because most guys, if you look at animals, they come within 7 seconds. You look at pigeons, you look at cows, donkeys, everything comes within 7 seconds. It's just the way it is. We're no different. We want to go for longer for an ego thing. But if you just went at a certain speed, you come within 7 seconds, especially if you're already aroused before. But that is the part that's an amazing. The touching, the kissing, the building up, this so fucking horny. That bit, holding that for as long as possible is the best bit. Like holding the urge to go and eat a McDonald's, for example. That is the best bit. Because if you eat that McDonald's, you're going to feel like shit afterwards. And once you come, you're going to want to go to sleep. It's the bit before. And I know because I've had both. Just fuck and no connection, just to fuck and connection and sex, and then waiting for ages to do it. It's so much more amazing. Your whole body is charged 10 out of 10 until that moment. And then you go down from like 10, 9, 8, 7. Whereas these days, no one's even getting to like a 4. It's that 10 before. It's the energy, the vibration that you can't even see that's not there because it makes people have to become in tune with their feelings. And most people, women as well, they're not in tune with them feelings because it's hard to, if you don't love yourself, it's hard to be in tune with how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes a lot of discipline. Even it's funny because people think that discipline and pleasure are different things. Like discipline is the ascetic path. It's no pleasure. It's not allowing yourself what you want. And pleasure is you're just a hedonist. You're just a lush. Everything. Just give me everything, right? But if you use discipline to get more pleasure, the two actually work together really synergistically, where more discipline with holding back your desires, holding yourself from taking what's might be easy and right in front of you and saying, you know what, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to let this build. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to feel the uncomfortable feelings of wanting it so bad and not getting it. I'm going to feel it and let myself get to this point where it's unmanageable for me, and then breathe and see how I can work with my own energy. And then once I have it, it's like the holy grail, right? And the problem, yeah, what, are you going to say something?
No,
No.
no, go carry on.
Yeah, the problem with building and with having discipline around sexual energy is a lot of people were taught that it was a shameful thing, that this energy, it's just in you, it's a bad part of you. It's not good. It's not something that you should be doing. You know, you shouldn't be masturbating. You shouldn't be having sex before marriage. Especially a lot of women have this more kind of shame around their body, what they should look like, what they should sound like when they're having sex, all these things. And when there's that shame there, sexual energy can feel really uncomfortable. Like this, I want to get this out of my body. How can I release this as quickly as possible? But if you really can love your, not just love yourself, but love your sexual self, love yourself as a sexual being, letting it be okay to be a sexual being, and letting this energy move through you, it makes you, I've noticed as a woman, and I'm sure it's the same as a man, but when I'm really sexually aroused, it makes me move differently. It makes me talk differently. I feel different in my body. I think differently, you know. I even my breathing changes. And when we can slow down and let that experience of being sexually aroused just kind of permeate all of us, it's a really amazing thing that starts to wake up, and we get to know ourselves as sexual beings. And letting that energy, being comfortable with your own sexuality, allows this experience of sex to be so much more incredible.
It's true. I know how it used to feel like being horny when I was younger, right? That feeling of being horny where you're at school, you've got a boner, you can't do anything with it. That feeling of horniness because that girl in front has got slightly bit of cleavage, right? That feeling of being horny is something we don't feel anymore because we're always masturbating, we're always watching porn. It's more to do with thought. I need to have a wank, wank. Well,
Mhm.
you have to watch porn because you're not even aroused. So then you watch more porn, longer porn, change fucking millions of videos just to come. And it's like your body's saying you're not supposed to be doing this anyway because if you were aroused, you would need to watch the porn. So we're thinking and we're doing. It's like we're thinking about food we're eating. We're not actually fucking hungry, right? And I remember being so horny when I was younger that you just were so horny, right? And all you wanted to do was release that feeling. That is as good as it gets. That build up. Essentially, that is the climax before even fucking. It's that build up of, oh my God, I'm so horny. The nerve endings is just so stimulant right now. And you said, if you look at animals, right? You've always got the female who's doing a dance, the ostrich like opening up the feathers, and the man just like going berserk. And then she starts to play hard to get, and then they roll over and they play, and then she's ready. She bends down, she's wet, she opens up, and then he gets on top. That is a process. We are no different to those animals. As you said, sexual energy opens you up, it lubricates you up. The female's wet, the male's wet. It's the perfect combination to put me in now. And we, nature is exactly the same. Even seahorses in the ocean, but yet humans, and I'm pretty sure humans are the only species that don't know how to sex. Because when you think about it, we're the smartest, but we're actually the dumbest because all the other animals are quite happy in their field, chomping on grass and shagging when they feel the need, and yet we are struggling to do all of this shit. So, uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. So I work in the field of helping people get in touch with their sexuality in a healthy way. And I've seen again and again what happens when people get addicted to pornography. And it really changes your mind. How do I say this? Like your sexuality is so easily influenced by your mind, right? So the brain is the biggest sex organ. What you're thinking, your connection to even either a picture or a fantasy or a person or your idea about wanting sex, the brain is the biggest thing that's going to turn you on. When the brain is used to kind of shortcutting through all the other emotions, all the other experiences of arousal and connection, and just going straight from an image to an orgasm. It actually rewires your brain to need that. So then the brain stops being responsive to the sound of somebody's voice, to the smell of their neck, to the way the breeze is lifting their skirt, whatever it is to you, that would make you aroused if you didn't have access to easy porn or easy stimulation. And the problem with this is it's making people not responsive in bed. It's making people have to fantasize. It's making erections about a third as strong because people need that extra stimulation, and they're only hard right before they come. Then it's like they're soft until they're about to come. A woman is not going to feel much pleasure at all from that at all, and you wonder why in relationships or even out of relationships it tends to be that women start to lose interest in sex because there's just such this disconnect about how it's being done, right? And so the key with tantra and the way that I work with it is the opposite of porn. It's like the antithesis of what porn is, where porn is the quick fix, the fast food, the I want this now, I'm going to get it, boom, big bang that lasts for a very short period of time. Tantra is the slowing down, and instead of seeking outward for stimulation, you go inward and you listen even deeper to what you're feeling. If you feel a little bit of tickle in your pants, you let that feeling expand and breathe it through your whole body. And what are you, every sense, what is every sense picking up? What am I tasting in my mouth? What am I smelling? What am I hearing? What am I feeling on every part of my skin? Letting your whole body become this hypersensitive, like sensory reception vessel, so that everything about you is taking in information, and then letting all of that add to your arousal. And when you can do that with a partner, it creates this incredible experience of lovemaking that can last for hours and hours. You lose track of time if you do decide to have an orgasm, and the sex becomes, penetration is not the only way to have sex when you're really tapped in. It can be breathing together, moving together, all these different ways of connecting intimately and sensually. And then actual orgasm, it actually becomes generally not even the height of the experience. You know, we're used to sex being like, okay, you're going, orgasm, then it's over. But this is like this experience is so up and down, in and out. You get, you know, really high with each other, then you calm down, and you get really high and you calm down. And the orgasm just means it's over. That wasn't, you know, that wasn't the reason you were doing it. That wasn't the best part of the experience. And that is really evolved, an evolved type of sexuality.
Yeah, so for example, right, I like to experiment on myself. So for example, I've experimented with not watching porn for say 3 weeks, not masturbating for say 3 weeks, okay? And the minute I see a girl and I think of her in a sexual way, I get hard. At the
Mm.
same time, when I do masturbate 3 weeks later, it feels fucking unbelievable. It feels great. The minute I touch myself to the end, the orgasm lasts longer. Whereas nowadays, you do it, you don't feel anything. The only thing you feel is the orgasm. So essentially, you're wanking just to feel the orgasm, to feel something. That's not what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be feels great the minute you touch yourself, right? And I've tested this. Now I have to wank like 3 times a day because I've got strong energy, and if I don't, I'm I've got bone all the time. So I know that porn's bad, and I could stop at any point because I'm in control. But I only do it because I'm not sexually active at the moment, and if I don't, I'll just have a bone all the time, and I'll be thinking of every person as a sexual object, right? So I have to do it, but I know when I don't do it, I'm always hard, and the masturbation when I do it in 3 weeks' time is fucking unbelievable. And as soon as I have a girl in my life completely, I won't need to watch porn. I won't want to watch porn because it will be me and her. Even if I don't see her for 2, 3 weeks, that build up is equivalent to the lion walking 4 days for the mate. The thought of seeing her, making her wet, me getting wet, just thinking about that. And then when I'm with her 3 weeks later, the length of time that happens, I wouldn't want to watch porn or wank because why the fuck would I want a shitty McDonald's every couple of weeks when I can have an amazing Chinese meal, all you can eat buffet in a 3 weeks time, you know?
Mm.
Um, and that is why I watch porn because of why. But I can stop. But I just have strong energy that I pick up the energy of everything around me, trees, nature, male and female, and I have to do it. Otherwise, at school I used to have boners all the time. I just always had a boner.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like medicine, but I understand it's not good for the brain, but because I can stop at any point, I don't mind. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting with that because I think in my experience, obviously sexual energy changes with age. Sometimes it's really high, sometimes it's low. It'll go up and down, you know, throughout your life. And a lot of ancient practices, like, you know, Taoist practices, ancient tantric practices, you know, the kind of warrior monk practices have some part of the practice that involves retaining sexual energy. So getting really, really fucking uncomfortable with your own arousal, being hard all the time, being frustrated, being like, I want to fuck everything, and letting that happen to a certain extent. If you've experimented for 3 weeks without, you know, wanking, then you know what I'm talking about. But there's a point which it starts to transform. And I'm not saying never watch porn again. I'm not saying don't touch yourself. I'm just saying, for people who are listening, there's something really incredible that happens to your whole aura, if you will, your whole being, when you take that energy and compress it and compress it. You know, a diamond is just compressed carbon. It's just compressed coal, basically. You take that raw, sexual, primal kind of earth primal energy and you compress it, you get really, really fucking uncomfortable. And there's something that can happen where your whole aura starts to glow different. You start to become like, you feel like Superman inside. If you start to take that energy and go, you know, create art with it or create music or even go work out, you know, and maybe if you're wanking 3 times a day, maybe just, you know, you do it once a day and for the other 2 times you use it in a different way. You'll start to notice, like for me, when I'm attracted to a man, it's usually I can tell if a man's sexual energy is being cycled through him fast, or if he's retained it. If he's retained it, I'm actually more attracted to him because there's a different glow, there's a different magnetism that I feel. Where I'm like, wow, he's really holding his sexual energy and it draws me in. As opposed to somebody who's using it a lot, they kind of feel dull to me. It's really interesting. I'm also really sensitive and have worked in the energetic arts for 10, 15 years. So not everyone is like this, but I think a lot of people are like this and don't really know what it is. They don't know the reason why they're drawn to one person and not the other. But if someone uses porn all the time in general, I can kind of tell there's less of a glow in their eyes. The posture is different, the way they walk is different, because after you have an orgasm, there's this cascade of all these hormones and chemicals through your system that kind of put you in this really mellow, kind of fluid, even more feminine state. Your masculinity is less sharp, if you will. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? Just for fun, I'm not going
Yeah.
to wank for 3 weeks. I'm not going to watch porn for 3 weeks. Just for fun. I mean,
Okay.
why the fuck not? I like to just set myself challenges and goals, make life exciting. Why not? That's what I'm going to do. I love masturbating in nature, right? Going on a late night walk, woods, fields, just randomly. You get so aroused when you're in nature. Why? Because animal, it's just, we're all energy, animal energy, whatever. It's energy. It's like, when spring comes along, you can smell semen. What is that smell? It's coming from the sap of the trees and the blossom and stuff. It smells like fish and wood. It's all connected, but there's a certain smell in spring, for example, of when animals are horny and they want to mate. It's the smell of semen that arouses humans. It arouses everything. That's why everyone fucks at the springtime, for example. There's something amazing about going on a walk and getting really horny and just having to masturbate. It's so freeing. It's not breaking the law. It's only breaking the law when someone sees you exposed. It's not breaking the law in the middle of the woods at night time next to an owl or a fox having a wank. Okay, that is completely fine. But that feels amazing. And when I stopped wanking for, as I said, like a few weeks, years and years ago, when I became enlightened and stuff, I used to go on walks. I suddenly get so horny on my way to work. I used to have to go in the bush and have a wank. And I was so hard and it was so enjoyable from the second I touched myself, as opposed to just feeling the pleasure when you orgasm. It was so amazing from the get-go that I didn't want to come because it was so pleasurable that once it's over, it's over. And that is how it should be, where you don't watch porn, you don't wank, and you just have all the energy stored in you that you see a female or whatever, and you just are charged. And that glow, as you said, in the man's eye, it's not there anymore because that glow went the morning he woke up and put Pornhub on, and the night he went to bed when he put Pornhub on. There's no drive, there's no glow, there's no energy. When a guy comes, he's tired, he's just relaxed and lazy, so there's no glow in his eye, there's no energy. It all comes down to energy. Energy
Yeah.
is either released or stored within. If you keep the energy within you, you're supercharged. It's like, well, if you don't use your iPhone battery, your phone's fully charged. If you use your phone, it's going to go down. Not
Right.
masturbating until you find a female means you're 100% charged until you meet that person. These
Right.
days, it's just being spunked into the air, literally, or spunked into the tissues.
Yeah, and so that's great that you mentioned that in nature. So Taoist practices would say that there's prana or chi in the air. There's prana or chi in nature. The air that you breathe in. If you're in a crappy environment, in an apartment, in a polluted city, there's going to be a lot less prana in the air. That means you have a lot less life force from the air around you. You're going to rely more on food to get your life force. If you're in nature, the life force is all around you. You breathe in, and the nature is feeding you with energy. So when if you're pleasuring yourself in the woods, you're actually you're drinking in all this energy around you. So nature actually is in some way arousing, not necessarily sexually arousing. You're not objectifying a tree. You're just feeling the natural sexual and fertile nature of the energy around you, which is incredible.
Yeah. Oh, your branch is such a turn. I'm gonna come on your leaf. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah. No, but it's like everything has an aura, and because I'm very strong in energy, I pick up energies from animals, trees, everything. Right. Um, it's like masturbating on the beach at night time, the wind and the waves. It's something to do with the nature and the sound of the waves in the water and the moon and the sun. It just, as you said, it's not necessarily sexual energy. You just feel like charged, like turned on. don't even have to be aroused. You just feel like this connection to energy and woods and ocean and nature and fields, just the moon and fields. It's
Yeah.
something so freeing. It's almost like a hands-free orgasm where you don't have to touch yourself to come. As you said, sexual energy can make you orgasm, not in the same way, but feel amazing like feelings. You don't need to touch yourself. It's just that constant feeling of, it's almost like the male prostate, for example. I haven't experienced it, but apparently it's like this constant orgasm. It's not like one orgasm like a penis orgasm. It's just like this kind of continuous, consistent feeling, and it
Hmm.
doesn't end. That's what I've heard. That's
And
what it
that's
kind of feels like, where you're just constantly charged, and you don't need to come to feel it because you're already feeling great.
hmm hmm Yeah, and that's more like I think the male prostate is more like what it's like for a woman to have an internal orgasm where it's whole body and it can have happen one after another and it's just more the more it's happening, the more it builds as opposed to it being a single pointed thing, a sharp increase and then decrease, right? And it's interesting with another piece of the sexual energy, your sex organs. So we say like this energy from the ocean and from the trees isn't sexual, but it is. It's not objectively friction based sexuality. It's not genital sexual, but it's primal creative creation energy, which is essentially, you see, two opposite seeds or things coming together to create life, right? Male, woman, the seed placed in the dirt, whatever that is. And the sex organs in the human body are the most powerful generators of energy in our whole body. So you say you've probably seen like the brain has a certain electromagnetic frequency, the heart has a really big electromagnetic frequency, and the sex organs are like rechargeable batteries. And the reason why I was actually drawn to tantric practices is because I've always had a lot of sexual energy. And when I was younger, I didn't know what to do with it, especially being female. It was like you're a slut if you're gonna go use that, you know. So I was really young when I started doing yoga. I was 15 when I started doing yoga, and I think 13 when I started meditating and learning how to open up this world inside of me. Once I started learning tantra, I think I was about 25, so about 10 years ago, and finding that you can actually charge this battery through your sex organs by cultivating the energy and then learning to move it throughout your body. It's like waking up this life force that connects to the same type of feeling that you get when you're exhilarated on a mountaintop. You just done this incredible hike, you're looking over this vista and the wind's blowing and you feel this almost orgasmic charge of energy up in your heart, up in your chest, your whole body's tingling with inspiration. That is really similar to orgasmic energy, except it can last a lot longer and it doesn't drain you, right? So cultivating this sexual energy by um, retaining your orgasm or not coming right away all the time and lifting it up, you could actually create this experience of feeling like you're on the mountaintop all the time. And that's the goal.
Yeah, it's like edging. If you just wank off a
Yeah.
guy, for example, and you just come when he comes, what's the fun in that? Edge,
Okay.
as in do it, stop, do it, stop. And actually, the orgasms get stronger and bigger. The climax gets bigger because now you just like, please let me come, woman. And then she stops. That intensity just gets bigger and longer. And what's interesting is, right, and I've learned a lot of my knowledge through experience and going back in time and replaying situations and then making it make sense or understanding why. I remember one time, can't remember how old I was, but I was with this horse. This horse got turned on by me and turned me on. Let me explain. This horse, obviously, he's just a nature, right? Animals just when they feel energy, whether it's a cow or horse, whatever, they just mount. For whatever reason, whether I turned him on, right, or he thought I was a horse, or he just saw me as a living energy and turned him on, he was getting aroused. I felt the sexual energy, which made me aroused. Now that's crazy because when you think about how, as we say, trees give off energy and everything in life gives off energy, his energy built up for whatever reason. He might have seen another horse and made himself aroused, and he just happened to be next to me. The point is that he got aroused. I saw him get aroused, and I was about, a meter away from him, 2 meters away. I felt sexual energy as if it was a female next to me, and it turned me on. And obviously, I didn't fuck the horse, but I'm saying that I felt that energy, right? I felt the energy. And it's like, well, how can a horse turn how can a horse turn you on? How can a tree turn you on? We're just all energy. And as you said, our sexual energies, our receptors, whatever they're up, things, they just pick it up. It just picks it up. Hence why a male lion, for example, knows to walk miles to find the mate. You just somehow know where that person is, or the animal is. But yeah, that's just a funny horse story. How the horse turned me on, and what I'm saying is I picked up his energy. So yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy to recognize other species as sexual beings, you know, and being turned on by things that you never would think would turn you on, and all of a sudden you feel the sexual energy and you realize that sexuality is genderless. It's not about being with a man, being with a woman. It's not about body parts. It's not about what shape turns you on or whatever. It's about feeling the sexuality, feeling the life force in something else. So that's why, like, personally for me, I believe that all people are kind of more sexually fluid than we give ourselves credit for. I think what we are actually drawn by is sexual energy that's polarity to our own. So, whatever we're expressing, sometimes as a woman, sometimes I express more dominant energy, sometimes I express more passive, kind of surrendered energy, depending on what mood I'm in, depending on what part of my cycle I'm in, what energy is running through me. If I just had a really good workout versus if I'm just feeling soft and cozy, you know, I'm going to be expressing a different energy. And that's going to determine what in a partner is going to polarize me to turn me on more. If I'm in my more soft receptive phase, then I might need someone who's more dominant, or else sex is never going to happen. We're just going to cuddle and watch movies, and you know. But if I'm feeling more dominant and my partner's also feeling dominant, then it might be like a clashing, and sex might also not happen, because then an argument might happen instead, because we're both feeling dominant. So it's learning how to create this polarity, and also as we evolve and develop as sexual beings, learning our range and how we can become more receptive to different types of sexual energy by learning to surrender. You know, a lot of men are taught that you have to be a masculine man and you have to act like this in bed, and this is what a woman wants, especially guys who kind of grew up with porn as their number one sex ed tool, right? Um, but that shuts you off from really exploring the range of your own pleasure and your own sexual experience. Because what if there's a woman that you're with, say you're, you know, a straight man, you never thought that you'd be attracted to certain types of things, but if you're with a woman who happens to bring out a more passive or surrendered side of you, and you notice like, wow, that actually turns me on, maybe I do like prostate massage, maybe I do like anal play, but that means that I'm not straight. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that you're opening your range and you're exploring new things. And I think when a human being can explore their sexuality with more awareness, it actually helps evolve your consciousness. Your sexuality has a lot to do with your expression, your personality, and your conscious mind. It's kind of like this, it's the subconscious, right? It's really related to the subconscious. So the more aware you are, the more enlightened you are, so to speak, in your subconscious, the more your everyday conscious activities are going to kind of level up. It's really fascinating.
so I've analysed everything to the nth degree, yeah. And so my female dog, the mother of her daughter, so you've got two dogs, right? Mother and daughter. They're both female. The younger dog used to mount the mother, the older dog. So there's two things there. Mother and daughter, which we're told you're not supposed to do. Female and female. Okay, that's gay, for example. So two animals are doing the two things that we're supposed to not be doing in terms of human life, which is being gay, as in we're only supposed to fuck the opposite sex, male and female. So my dog, two females, fucking. Second thing is they're mother and daughter. So we're not supposed to fuck our family members, right? If you look at animals and a pack of cows, they don't know who's the auntie, the uncle, the grandmother, the sister-in-law. Okay, there's no titles. They're just there. If they feel the need to fuck, they mount and then they create life. There's no rules. And so when I saw my younger dog mounting its own female mother, who was also the female, that made me question everything. We're told that it's not right to be gay. The Bible says you can't be gay. Men and female are supposed to be together. Male and male are not. But there's really no rules. My perception of this is that the bigger, so for example, male are stereotypically bigger than a female. If a male, imagine there's like 10 cows in a field, half of them are female, half of them are male. If the big male cow mounts the female cow who's smaller, she's going to find she hasn't got enough strength to push him off. So he will end up coming in her, right? If you've got a big cow being mounted by a big cow, he's now got the strength to push off this other big cow. And what's interesting is although when a female wants to be mated, she'll stick her ass in the air and he'll put himself inside her. But what's also interesting is this thing about selection of breeding, you only want the big male to breed, so you have bigger offspring, which means you've got more chance of survival. If the female doesn't like the male, for whatever reason, not big enough, she will somehow force him away, which shows that females won't just surrender to a male. It's selection. So the two males will, that the male who's being mounted by the other big male can fight them off, but the female doesn't. What does that say? It says that there's no rules about men having sex with men, females having sex with females, or males having sex with females. If a male fucks a female, life is created. If a male fucks a man, if a female fucks a female, that's just what it is. It's just an orgasm. I've noticed, yeah, that if you watch a dog, okay, hump a toy, and you take that toy away, his hips are still thrusting in the air. What does that mean? It means that he's experiencing that pleasure without his genitals touching anything. So, for example, if you look at a male and a female, you see like a rhinoceros in the wild, yeah, he's penetrating. Sometimes he comes, but he's not even in the vagina. Life is created when you come in the vagina. But if you look at a male rhinoceros, for example, fucking a female rhinoceros,
Have you watched rhinoceri having sex?
If you watch, for example, a male rhinoceros having sex with a female rhinoceros, he's so excited and aroused that he's not even got it in. He's thrusting and he's come on like just the outside, or he's not even come inside. So that says that you can still orgasm without going in. So you're thinking about, okay, so a guy hasn't got a vagina, that means you've got to stick it in his ass, but the ass isn't natural. It's things supposed to come out, not go in. So that tells me that you can create an orgasm just by the arousal or brushing up against the back of something, whether it's the vagina, the bum, or the fucking arm. So the only reason why, for example, being gay is not stereotypically what's supposed to be in nature is because we're so used to this male and female thing. But really, there's no rules. A male will fuck a male if the male is smaller and can't push him away, just like a female would push away the male if they weren't big enough to breed with. And if the female is happy with the size, it will surrender. And if the female is small, it can't push the male off. What I'm saying to you is that there's no rules about what you should or shouldn't fuck in terms of male, 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 female, female, female. It all comes down to size and if you can say no, basically. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, the animal kingdom is definitely simplified in that it comes down to size, but with humans, I think what you were saying earlier too is like connection, being connected, feeling a spiritual connection. So many of us have lost that what it should require to be sexual with somebody. So many of us have lost like needing to have that intimate or spiritual or even trust connection with somebody that it takes to want to be naked with someone, that we're looking for other resources to tell us who we should want to make love to. You know, we're like, oh, look, I have woman body parts. That means I should want this type of man. What type of man is acceptable for me to have? Let me look at the media. What's the media saying? As opposed to, let me notice what my body, how my body responds in the presence of this particular person. Big, small, male, female, light, dark, whatever, you know. And I think it's really unfortunate that our sexuality has become, like, for lack of a better word, colonized. You know, our sexuality is like put into this box where this is how we should do it. This is how to do it in a way that's appropriate. You know, nobody's going to frown on you if you do it this way, as opposed to let me just listen to what my body wants. And getting in touch with that, the innocence, right? The natural innocence and the kind of primal nature behind our sexual urge helps you get in touch with your intuition and your true self, as opposed to being so afraid that you're going to want the wrong thing. You're going to have desire for something that might make you, oh no, what are they going to think if I'm having sexual desire for someone of my own sex or someone who looks this way, right? Let me just experience my desire. I can choose to act on it as I will. But what happens a lot is men who maybe have bisexual tendencies, or men who are more fluid sexually, which I think most people are so afraid of their sexual attraction to the same sex that it turns into anger. It turns into aggression and even hyper masculine expression. Like, I can't be thinking that way. I got to go to the gym and pump iron and focus on a girl, watch only heterosexual porn. So I make sure that I'm this type of man. And it really cuts us off from our joy, from our true selves, because there's so much fear about not doing it right. You know,
Yeah. So, as I said, the energies, if you've got a pack of animals, male and female, it's just the energy charge. It's not about, are you a male, lift your tail up. Oh, nope, you're a female. It's not about this, it's about the energy. Now, for example, I don't find guys attractive, but if, for example, I was so turned on by a guy and I felt the need to increase my sexual energy with that person, whether it's through fucking or whatever, I would. It's not irrelevant to the sex, or you're a guy, or I like girls. It's not about, well, am I gay, am I bisexual? I've not done it before. It's nothing to do with that. You go act upon your sexual desire. If I feel the need to go and get a kebab or chicken wings, I will. Even if I've already had dinner. If I feel the urge to get some chicken wings, I will. If this guy is so charging me up and I just need to fuck, I need to release that feeling, I'll fuck. It's not about, oh, you're a guy, I don't fuck guys. It's not about that. These days, everything's labelled. It's like if you put yourself in a box, you're restricted to that box. In life, we're all energy, and if you feel aroused by the horse, the tree, the man, the female, go with that flow. It's not about, oh, you're a man, can't be fucking a man. Why? Oh, God says you can't. But who's God? Is he even there? It's not, yeah, I believe you the same. I believe that you could say everyone is secretly gay. What I mean by that is everyone will pick up energies from all, both male and female, and yet we choose whether we act upon it or not based on whether we think it's right or wrong, or our perception, or whether what people will say. It's just sexual energy, and if somebody's putting it out there freely, both the women and the male are going to feel it. If you're just focusing on the female, the guy won't feel it. If you just focus on the male, the woman won't feel it. It's no rules. It's just where you focus your energy, you will charge. And yeah, I agree. I've seen it before. Hard muscle gym lads, I saw once when I was like 19, when I was analysing everything. I saw these are the types of guys who would be like, oh my God, you're gay, weirdo, before gay was normal. But yet I saw him sitting on his friend's lap and he was kissing his neck. And these people are so drunk out of their face that they had no idea what they were doing. They were acting upon feeling. And they didn't know who was around, they didn't care. But he was sitting on his lap and they were just like touching and cuddling and kissing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, holy shit, like they're doing something that feels so natural that you have no perception. Because if they were not drunk, they wouldn't even be seen in hell doing that. We're talking about 8 years ago, for example, no, 10 years ago, before it was common. And I saw this natural feeling of just going with that feeling. If it feels good, do it more. If a guy touches you, it feels good, let him do it more. It's not, oh, you're a guy, get your hands off. But if a female does it, continue. What difference does it make whether it's a guy or a woman? Doesn't make any fucking difference. It's a feeling. Go with the feeling. And yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of healing that can be had around what people call toxic masculinity and homophobia. There's a lot of healing, and that homophobia lends itself to toxic masculinity in a way that it's like, this is what it means to be a man. If you deviate, you will be shamed, right? Do not deviate from what it means to be a man. And for a lot of men, allowing, and women the same, allowing themselves to acknowledge, like, yeah, I was aroused by that person of the same sex, or that person who I shouldn't be aroused by. Allowing it to be that you don't have to act on it. Letting it be okay, letting the feeling arise naturally is different than all of a sudden doing it all the time. And no shame if you do either. But I think a lot of people think that if I let that thought in, if I acknowledge that feeling, if I let it be okay, then it will just take me over. And it really helps, in my experience, men that I've dated who have been at least more open to the idea of being with another man. have been such better lovers because I find that they're less repressed in the way that they express their sexuality. Maybe just because they've opened their minds to be like, oh yeah, sexuality is beautiful. Let me just experience it in every way that I can instead of A to B. This is my one route of expressing my sexuality. That way it doesn't evolve past the way that it was when you were 14 years old. Like for most of us, we learn how to have sex when we're young and we kind of shove it in the closet. We maybe have the sex talk with our parents, maybe, which is usually really awkward. And then a sex ed class or two in high school, which is also awkward. And we don't really learn except through porn, which is mostly, for show, um, how to not just see good examples of it, because that's one part is seeing good example of a healthy sexuality, but actually feeling what that is inside our own bodies. And when we do, oftentimes say we're 30 years old and we're revisiting our sexuality, we're like, oh my God, I've spent so much time and energy on learning, going to institutions, to yoga, meditation, my spiritual practice, my gym, going to the gym, making my body look good, but my sexuality is still at the age of 14 or 15-year-old. So what are you going to do to focus on that and let it evolve to meet the rest of you? It's
You're
so
so
important.
true, right? Most guys, most, not all, most, wouldn't even dream of their girlfriend, wife sticking a finger up their ass, let alone a strap on, right? But
Right.
for me, that is one of the most exciting things about sexual relationship, right? It's just, it's, it makes playing with yourself for a guy so much more intense when you've got something pressed against your prostate, okay? Finger strap on, whatever. It almost prolongs the orgasm, but makes it so intense because you've now got double pressure on that prostate. And you say that to a guy, oh, that's gay. Well, what is gay? Gay is when a guy sticks a cock up your ass. Well, is a guy sticking a cock up your ass? No. So why would that be gay if your wife fingered you, right? Such, it's so pleasurable, right? And it's sad how so many guys have no idea. It's like another side to a sex life, even for females, right? Most women, whatever the percentage is, don't have anal sex, right? Again, if they did, it opens up other doors. The same for a guy. Opens up other doors in the bedroom to just you feel so more free and more likely to try other things, and your sex life becomes just so freeing and open as opposed to just normal platonic sex in the vagina when I'm horny. And I mean, if you allow yourself to have stuff in your ass, it opens up so much stuff. Role play, licking, playing, outdoor. Your whole life, your sex life becomes just like it's just another world. It's not just bedroom. It's outdoors. It's swinging. It's different couples. It's toys. It's outfits. It's role plays. It's just like I can't even explain. That all comes from a finger in the ass, I believe, because you're basically going outside the barriers of. Oh my God, my friends would take the piss out of me if they knew about that. So you shun away from it. Even the guy sticking his finger in his own ass. It's not talked about. I mean, it's just fucking crazy. It's a great feeling. Haven't done it for a long time because I just haven't for whatever reason. I need to get in touch with myself, literally. But yeah, it was just so pleasurable when I did. I used to have a sofa in my room. Huh?
Yeah. After this 3 week period where you're not gonna wank, I bet you'll practice again.
No, it's true. I remember when I had a sofa in my room. I lived with my parents. I still do. I had a sofa in my room. My bedroom has actually come up the stairs. I had my cock ring, my dildo, my butt plug. Not really a dildo, but it's like a bullet from the pound shop, just a pound dildo thing, right? And lube. I purposely left it on the couch so everyone could see. It was about me embracing what is fucking natural, and I don't care if you know I'm sticking that my ass. And my parents always joke about wash your hands. I don't know where your hands have been, or probably been up your ass. We joke about it now. It's just like normal. Arse talk, anal, sticking up your ass. I say, Mum, you should get dad to fuck you in the ass. How do you know he hasn't? It's just so I've made it so normal. Like if you talk about things right enough, it becomes normalized. Like if you swear
Yeah.
around kids, they start to swear. If I speak about sex and anal or my thing, stick a finger up dad's ass and Mum, your pussy, your vagina stinks, it just becomes normal. And so it should be. It's the most fucking normal thing on the whole bloody planet. Okay,
Yeah.
so why is it the most unnormal thing? And if you speak about stuff it becomes normal. And now that's just we've gone past that thing about you're so crude. As I said, they used to say I'm also crude. But now I've got my parents speaking about sexual stuff. I'm not crude anymore because they're only using the word crude to push me away from them experiencing that feeling of sex. Does that make sense? If they see you're crude, it's they don't want to think and speak about sex because maybe my parents weren't having sex. But now when they're in a sexual energy in motion, you can speak about sexual things because now they are also experiencing their sexual thing. Feel normal to you. If a woman isn't used to feeling that turning on because her parents said it's bad or whatever, then every time you feel that arousal, you're going to push it away and stop. And you're not going to allow yourself to feel it. And everything you feel, your body gets used to it. If you feed yourself good food, you feel good. You eat too much McDonald's, you feel shit. Your body becomes accustomed to feeling. So talking about anal sex in this household is normal, just like what's for dinner.
Maybe that's for after dinner.
Huh?
Maybe that's what comes after dinner.
Literally. I'm like, right, Mum, I'll tidy up. You and Dad enjoy yourself.
Well,
I'm going
I
for a
love
walk in the woods.
I love your openness and honesty to talk about taboo topics, on a podcast. It's like, I think the more people expose themselves, people in this world are like coaches and leaders and want to keep a certain image and are so afraid of exposing the darker side or the hidden side or their kinks or things they might think might not be acceptable to other people. And so I really appreciate your willingness to talk about yourself and your own desires in ways that you might get judged for. People might decide they don't want to listen to your podcast anymore because they might judge you to be a certain type of person, but I'm guessing that's not the type of person who naturally would want to listen to your podcast in the first place. But it helps kind of take us out of our prison. We were in this prison of the mind of this is how we should be and this is how we should relate to each other and talk and think and all these things. And the more people are willing to have these more taboo conversations in a real way, in a way that's not threatening and we're not being nasty, overly graphic and about it. We're being just really honest about our own experiences. I think it's just healing for people to be less repressed.
Yeah, I've studied a lot of people, and I've realised, to put it simply, that we're all the same. We all have the same thoughts. Some just don't think about them, and some do. Some suppress, some don't. Some put it out into the world, some don't. The stuff I'm speaking about is not everyone, but so many people. They think about this stuff. They speak about it to certain friends, their best friends, their husbands, their partners. We're all the same. We're all thinking the same. So why am I any different? And if I'd speak about it to a friend down the pub, okay, I'll speak about it to a friend down the pub. Why would I not speak about it to a random stranger if she is also the same as me? So yeah, we're all the same, and you shouldn't be scared about anything. Anyway, quickly plug anything you want to plug, social media, websites, or anything.
Yeah, thanks for this conversation. My Instagram is pleasure as medicine. That's what I believe. I believe pleasure can be medicine, healing for us. My name is Miriam Elyse, so my website is miriamelyse.com. That's MIRIAMELYSE.com. And I have an upcoming Tantra Yoga immersion we're doing in Santa Fe, New Mexico, as soon as this travel ban is lifted. So hopefully at the end of 2020, maybe 2021, but that's combining tantric rituals, yoga, and Kalari, which is an ancient Indian martial art form altogether. So I'm really excited about that. The website is tantrayogaimmersion.com. So check those out. It was such a pleasure talking with you and being introduced to your audience, Oliver. Thank you so much.
No worries. Wait there. Let me press stop, and I'll just say goodbye. Okay, one sec.